This is Off the Limit Hour, and I'm your host, Nathanael Stone, but we all know who the Lord of Hosts is. Say it with me in any dialect you so choose. 𝐤𝐄𝐄, Sabaoth. Kodesh brothers and sisters, fellow members in the body, Messiah, and those in the world, thank you for giving me your attention in a world full of distractions. So we are going to be starting a new series here called Torah Tuesday with Nathan. We have a guest speaker here on the air with us. Nathan, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name's Nathan. I'd like to thank Nate for having me here today to have a special opportunity to really just be a part of this podcast and learn more about the Lord here together.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce what the series is as the first part of this new series of Torah Tuesdays. So Torah is a word that essentially just means instruction. It's typically used for the instructions given to the book of Moses, the books of Moses, Genesis through Deuteronomy, but it's also in connection with the word law. So a lot of times when you see the word law in your English translation, the word Torah is found there in the scriptures. So law is more like it's instructions, essentially, is what it is. And so the laws give you instructions on how to act in the kingdom. And so like the law of the government, like as we have here, gives you instructions of how what is right and what is wrong, and essentially what is or what is not a crime, or what you can and cannot do. And they prohibit things, or you get regulations on I don't know, you want to have a business, you have to do this, and you have to fill out this form. Well, the scripture instructions are kind of similar. It's regulations on life, and the law gives you an understanding of right and wrong, of righteous and unrighteous. The law itself doesn't make you righteous, but it does give you a definition of what righteous is. So, Nathan, you wanna maybe discuss kind of what interests you to bring you here?
Yeah. Just kind of want to learn more about, what it really is to be a true follower of Christ, or Jehovah as a whole, because I feel like most of my life I haven't really been taught the proper kind of fundamentals of what it really means to be a true follower of the Messiah. And I really just want to know and learn and grow as a actual, follower of the Messiah. And I hope to learn more to really just grow my walk with Christ and Jehovah as a whole, for sure. And I'd like to thank you once again for just, having me here to really just know and get to learn and grow.
Yeah, so this is going to be geared towards people that are newer in the walk, but you don't have to be new in the walk, but are essentially people that have a level of understanding. But essentially, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be like a building inspector, and I'm going to inspect your building or inspect your understanding of the scriptures. We're gonna look at foundational matters, things of foundation, like what some people would call salvational issues. What is a salvational issue? We're gonna look also at the structure, the scriptures. There's a lot of different metaphors that we can use. One metaphor that is used in the scriptures is that of a house. And when we build our house, we are to build it on a good, solid foundation, and we are to, and then our house is tested. In that when trouble and difficulty, rains come down upon the house, and storms and a tempest or whatnot, if the house remains, then we know that we have a good structure to it. But primarily, we're supposed to build that house on the rock and not on a sandy foundation. So we're going to make sure that your spiritual house is in a good location, has a good foundation, and we're going to check everything from the doors to the windows to the roof. as well as the foundation. And that's the metaphor of what this is. And then we're going to go through, it's going to be a training series. And hopefully anyone that watches this and watches the series from episode 1 forward, hopefully it can help people really get an understanding of what the scriptures are actually teaching us. So
yeah.
So I'm gonna get into a scripture here. I've talked about this before in a couple other videos of mine. I think one other one, I believe. So I'm gonna share this here. We'll put it here to that. So this is in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, and in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, I'm going to switch over here to ESV. It's a little bit of an easier read for now. We'll talk about translations here in a moment. Apostle Paul, Shaul, is talking here about that there's divisions among them. This is first century Christians, right? Talking about divisions among them, and in saying that they need to be united in the same mind and the same judgment. But he's been told that there's been quarreling amongst them, and some of the quarrel is essentially what they're saying is, I follow Paul, or I follow Apollos, he's another teacher, or I follow Cephas, that's Peter, or I follow Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you, or were you baptized in the name of Paul? And then we're just going to stop there.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is in the first century congregation, they are divided, and they are saying, well, I follow Apollos or Peter or Paul or Christ. It would be kind of like today, well, I'm a Roman Catholic, or I'm a Protestant, or I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Jehovah's Witness, or I'm a Mormon. Were you baptized in the name of Baptist, or baptized in the name of Mormon? Were you baptized in the name of Jehovah's Witness? Were you baptized in the name of Catholic? Because it doesn't say the word Catholic, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, a Protestant, Baptist, anywhere in any spot in the scriptures. We weren't baptized in that name. So we can get into a name dialect. Some say Jehovah, some say Yahuwah, some say Yahweh, Yehovah. I personally say Yahuwah, but we don't need to get into a name debate or a name discussion at this point in time. We will in the future. They call him Jesus, and I can show you in a later series, a later episode, that his name is actually closer to, if you Anglicanize his name is actually Joshua. But we can share that later. But for lack of a for now, we can use the word Jesus or Yeshua for Christ. We can use Christ or Messiah. But either way, we were baptized in the name of Christ. We were baptized in Messiah's name. We in the name of the only begotten Son, the Son of Elohim. The Son of God. We were baptized in his name, and only in our faith in him brings us salvation. Not in all of these religious sects. So in this series, what I want to start out with is that I'm going to be pretty blunt. I'm going to be right to the point of it. Is that today, when someone says that they're a Christian, it's different. When they say they're a Christian, it's supposed to mean, and I agree with this meaning, a follower of Christ, a follower of Messiah. That's what a Christian is supposed to be: a follower of Christ, a follower of Messiah. But what a Christian means in many senses of the word today is that they're a follower of their religious institution. Like, do you kind of notice that at all?
Yeah. It's kind of like, I feel like, really followers nowadays really tend to focus more on the church or what they're doing, what they want for the church to see them as, and it's not really focusing on Christ as a whole. I'm going to share a little something here. I just came out of a very I'd like to say cult that really really manipulated you to donating money to the church, so you really just, go in on the church and just like donate as much money, and you can really move up within the church itself. And I noticed that these, people weren't really following what Christ wanted, and what they more so focused on what the church wanted for you, rather than really what the Bible said, and what Christ actually wants us as followers to do. And I feel like this isn't only just applied to this church alone. There are several other sectors of Catholicism, or especially like LDS churches really tend to focus more on how they want their individual followers to focus on the church itself rather than what Christ wants. And that's just a little bit something about me, and definitely something that I kind of noticed as I grew up around modern day Christianity, or as I like to say, churchianity.
well, yeah, churchianity is a great word for it.
Yeah.
And I'll just share with you, it don't matter. That is going to be something that's going to be in the body until Messiah returns. What you just mentioned, and this has been there since Moses' day. If you want to get technical, it's been there since Moses' day. Moses went up on the mountain. He was gone for too long. They're like, hey, like Aaron, like you figure this out. And then they gathered the gold, and he poured this gold, and this calf just came on out, is what Aaron says, right? But they gathered money from the people in gold, and then they basically formed this pagan image, and then they did idolatry right then and there. The golden calf incident, it's interesting that this kind of comes up. The golden calf incident is essentially a metaphor for false religion. It's a metaphor for twisting and perverting religion into something it's not supposed to be. And Jeroboam does this also. I did a teaching at Sukkot here just like last month, and it's on the sin of Jeroboam. And Jeroboam, his sin, he made 2 golden calves, but what he did, and put them in two separate locations, but what he ultimately did was he twisted the religious structure into something different, but he did it for money and power, is what he did. So this happened in Jeroboam's day. It happened, in Moses' day. It happened all through the Judges. It happened, you have a good king, an okay king, a kind of bad king, a bad king, a good king, a bad king, a good king. We have this in the book of Kings. It's not going to be any different today. I'd like to tell you that there's the one peer church out there, the one peer assembly out there, and it's going to be kind of difficult to find, because right now the wheat and the tares are still mixed, and so what you mentioned is going to be there even with people that are have a deeper understanding of what the scriptures are actually saying. I still see this. So I just want to prepare you in the future that this kind of thing is going to continue to happen. I would like to tell you it's not, but even Messiah talks about division, and he didn't come for peace, but for a sword. Mother against daughter-in-law, and father against brother, against son, and so there's going to be division that's going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen. Yeah. But the big problem that I have with any organization is that they're not teaching core foundations. Yeah. So we're going to be getting into some core foundations here. I'm going to share this one here in the script. This is James. The book of James is actually the book of Jacob. It's the whole other. We can get into some fun stuff with that. Here I'll show you this really quick while I'm here. If you click on his name here, and then I have it interlinear. Let me get up to the full page here. If you click, and I'll teach you how to use these resources too, and those that are watching the video too. If you click on this name, James, this is Strong's Concordance. They alphabetized every word in the scriptures. So this is G for Greek, number 2,385,
Yes.
letters into it, or words into it. You click on this and look at it's Jacobos, the same as Jacobus, Jacob. The name of James, they changed his name. Anyways, it's okay.
Jacobus.
Yeah, or Jacobus.
Yeah,
It's the Greek, but
Yeah.
the Hebrew name is Jacob. There's some dialect stuff.
Isn't it funny how language changes?
Yeah, I personally don't think that names should necessarily be changed, but
exactly, yeah.
it's okay. But anyways, here in James Jacob 1:1, it talks about verse 22, be doers of the word,
Not here.
and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. And it's saying here that receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls, and necessarily it's our faith in Messiah that's connected in with that. But he says here, but the one who looks into the perfect law. Now this is New Testament, but here he's saying that the law is perfect. They try to tell you today that the law has been done away with. But the law here in the New Testament, after the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Messiah, he's still calling the law perfect. And the law, liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer, but forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. So, and we can get into the blessings and curses chapter later on. There's so much to cover, and not enough time in 1 hour. So we remove, it's a large subject, and we just kind of have to jump in. And so we're just kind of getting our feet wet, and I feel that this is a good spot to start. So in verse 26 and 27, if anyone thinks he is religious, and I guess I would ask you on this topic, since we're religious, what to you would you define? I'm going to kind of move it. How would you define religion? Just maybe in your head, what would you define religion? Like, I'm this religion. What would your what is a religion? What is a religion's core purpose?
If I were to come in kind of strong here, first timer, I would say that religion is definitely following something of some kind. It could be anything. It can be anything. It could be like a religion of chairs, and it could be a very well organized religion of chairs. And as long as you follow the laws within the religion of chairs, it could just be anything that involves in organizing laws and following those laws overall.
So I would ask. Okay, so now I'm going to be a little bit more pointed.
Yes.
So there's over 40,000 Christian denomination religions out there. So any one of them, what are those religions saying? What are they saying without saying, or why are they in existence? What are they teaching? What is their function?
They're teaching to follow Christ, following following Christ, and what the fundamental aspects would be in following.
That's it. The fundamental aspects. Yeah, that's it. They're basically in the Christian religion. You touched on religion of chairs. We could say any religion. Any religion. They have a structure, a system, an order, a pattern, and a mindset. There's a culture to it. And so the word cult does come from culture. But a cult is bad, but culture is good. The scriptures teach us a culture. It teaches us the culture, a mindset, a way to think, how to see things, how to act. It's teaching us a lot of fundamentals. And so what a religion itself is saying is that they have the understanding of what the Bible teaches, and if you listen to them, they'll tell you basically what God likes and what he doesn't like, what Messiah likes and what he doesn't like, what is right and what is wrong according to scriptural principles. That is what in a religion. In a lot of cases, what religions are saying is that they are the only way or the right way of doing it, and everyone else is incorrect. But religion is, at least Christian religions, are supposed to be founded on what? Aside from Christ, like the actual man, Elohim, the I would consider Christ to being a deity.
Yeah.
Aside from the only begotten Son of Elohim, the only begotten Son of God that he is, aside from him coming in the flesh, aside from that, what is a religion founded on?
Laws, or
the Bible,
which is a law,
right?
Book of laws, yeah.
Right. It's founded on the Bible, and so religion is supposed to be backed by the Bible. It's backed by this book, and so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing compare and contrast of what the scriptures say versus a lot of the Christian culture that is out there,
right,
of whether or not they're correct. They're not incorrect in everything, but they are incorrect in a lot of things, a lot of different things. Now for me, I'm not affiliated necessarily with any singular organized religion. What my ministry that I try to teach is I try to teach people to be better students, and to be independent thinkers, and to make decisions according to what the book says, and also to help people to learn how to walk in the Spirit and what that means. But that's later more advanced stuff that's in there. We're going to focus on core fundamentals. Here in James 1:26 and 27 it says, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, control your mouth, right? Control your anger. And I have problems. We all have problems.
Oh,
with this.
of course.
Yeah, it's something that we all need to work on.
We all need to work on.
It says that he deceives his heart. This person's religion is worthless. Religion. Now he gives you a definition, a biblical definition. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father. Elohim is the Hebrew word for God. So if I use the word Elohim, you understand as God, right? It's not.
Yes.
Okay. So an undefiled before Elohim, the Father, is this. So pure and undefiled. Religion that is pure and undefiled is this. The biblical definition of religion: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, help out those who are having serious trouble. Orphans and widows are definitely in much need in their affliction.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that. So do good unto others, yes. And to keep oneself unstained from the world. Now that one right there.
Yeah.
Now what this means, how would you define unstained?
Oh, someone or something without any errors, any stains at all. Like no, and I mean zero influence from the outside world.
So the question would be, if now we're talking about ideology, theology,
right?
How would you define a stain according to ideology or theology?
A stain, I guess someone
or unstained.
Or unstained.
Either one. How would you define that?
I guess if we're talking about stained, it would I would just say it'd be, according to theology, it'd be not following the I guess the perfect laws set out to you, and not really following what, as Jazz 1:27 has stated, not visiting orphans and widows in their affliction, and literally not following what the Bible itself tells you, because the world tells you not to do that.
Right. Yeah,
yes,
so unstained would be something that would be following the perfect law.
Yeah.
So the perfect law should tell you, or it does tell you, the difference between a stain and not a stain, the difference between a clean garment and a dirty garment, the difference between holy and profane, between clean and unclean, righteous and unrighteous. The perfect law teaches you what is the difference between stain and unstained. So religion is not just visiting, helping widows and orphans and people in need in their affliction. It's not just that, but this word "and" is there, so it's also keeping yourself unstained from the world. So how can you keep yourself unstained from the world if you don't have a biblical definition of what a stain is? It's just, it's that's why it's a foundational point.
Yeah.
So what we have is we have a lot of people we covered in Corinthians 1. I'm of Apollo, I'm of Cephas, I'm of Paul, I'm of
Christ.
Of Christ. Yeah. So we're supposed to be following the scriptures as written down in the inspired word. And all of these are examples, some for the good, some for the negative. Messiah's all for the good, right? He didn't sin at all.
Yeah.
But other people in the scriptures have some positive and negative examples that are in there. But we're supposed to be following the scriptures in its entirety, Old and New Testament that is there. But the law here in the New Testament says that it is the perfect law and that we are to keep ourselves unstained from the world. So in order to keep oneself unstained, you have to have that definition of what it is. And the law gives you that definition. I'm going to just share this really quickly. It's in Romans chapter 2. And it says here in verse 28, no one is a Jew who is merely one outwardly, nor is circumcision outward and physical, but a Jew is one inwardly. And circumcision is a matter of the heart, by the Spirit, not by the letter. His praise is not from man, but from Elohim, but from God. So this word Jew is a complicated word. They use the word Jew today. I think it means something more than, I think the scriptural word of this word and the word that we have today are two different words today. Yahudi or Yahudim in plural is the word that is found there in Hebrew. But I find it to be someone who is worshiping Yahuwah, worshiping the Lord, that is there in that they are following things according to understanding. And I'll give it, because here in the scriptures is in this very same chapter here, it says this. It's talking about Gentiles. Let me see if I want to kind of go up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm glad I went up because it's up here. But I'm trying to put it in context here. For all who have sinned without the law will also perish without the law. So it doesn't matter if you know the law or not. Sin is sin, is what he's saying.
Sin is sin.
Yeah. And all who have sinned under the law will be judged by the law. So sin is sin.
Right.
The definition of sin has not changed.
Right.
It is not the hearers of the law, but the doers. That's what we just read in James, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. For when the Gentiles who do not have the law, they don't have the law, why? Because they're not been instructed.
They're not, yeah.
It's not in their culture. Okay. By nature, do what the law requires. They are a law to themselves, even though they don't have the law. What that means is, by nature, means that it's kind of like their conscience. And it says that while their conscience, says here in verse 15, their conscience also bears witness.
Yeah.
And their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them.
Yeah.
So their conscience, they can have, that's the Ruach Kodesh. That's the Spirit talking to them, is how I read that. But still, the law written on their hearts. Now, he says, but if you call yourself a Jew, now I know the word today means something else. I think of this word here, and I can give you some a whole other teaching on it. I think that this word is someone who is praising and worshiping Yahuwah, and they have instruction from scriptures itself. And it's, you could say it's a bloodline, but I believe it's a spiritual aspect. It's, but we're going to continue to go forward. Yeah. I don't want to get lost on that point. So that's a whole can of worms. Says that you call yourself a Jew and rely on the law and boast in God and Elohim. And here it is. And know his will and approve what is excellent, because you are instructed from the law. And let me look at this here. You know his will. 𝐤𝐄𝐄, G2307. And you know here his desire and his pleasure, or his will. What pleases him, what his desire is for you to do, what his will is for you to do, what he determines for you to do. And you know his will. That's what they have here for this here. Because, so means that his desire, his his what was the other word that we have there? His thelema, his pleasure, his desire, his pleasure, his what pleases him.
What pleases him.
It's because you are instructed from the law. So this is New Testament stuff, Romans, right? New Testament. And he's not saying, but you don't have to do that anymore. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that you know what the Creator wants because you're taught it from the Bible. That's basically what he's saying. And then he says, and if you are sure that you yourself are a guide to the blind, we're supposed to be, and a light to those who are in darkness, we're supposed to be, an instructor of the foolish, we're supposed to be teacher of scriptural children, we're supposed to do this, having the law, the embodiment of knowledge and truth. So the law is the embodiment of knowledge and truth. And then he says, basically, don't be a hypocrite. You can look at this real quick. Like, if you say don't steal, but do you steal? Don't commit adultery, but do you adultery? don't do idol, but you rob temples, right?
Yeah.
And then you say that you're breaking the law by doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said that the name of Elohim, God, is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. For circumcision is indeed value if you obey the law, but if you break it, your circumcision is uncircumcision. So then he continues to go on, and then he says here what we read already, it's not outwardly, circumcision is not of the flesh or physical, but it's inwardly, and it's of the heart, by the Spirit, by the letter. So, according to Romans, New Testament now, according to Romans, that we know his will because we're instructed from the law. Now, in the very next chapter, Romans 3, verse 20, it says this: for by works of the law, no human will be justified in his sight. Yeah, so we're not saved by works of the law, but through the law comes the knowledge of sin. So the law teaches us the knowledge of sin. Now, one of my major problems, there's a lot of problems that I have. One of my major problems with religious institutions that claim to be followers of Christ, especially, or claim to be followers of the Old Testament, Judaism, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
My main problem is Christianity itself says that the law has been done away with. But it says that the law gives you the knowledge of sin. I believe it's a satanic trick. Satan has deceived a great many people, because if the law has been done away with, then the knowledge of sin has been done away with. And we saw in the previous chapter that if you don't have the law, you still die in the law. The sin is sin. There is no difference of the understanding of sin.
Yeah.
Is that through that the law comes the knowledge of sin. Sorry, this just popped in my head. Let me try to find it. I'm not sure where it's at. Here it is. So Romans 7:12, it says, the law is holy, and the commandment is holy and righteous. And good. So the law is holy.
Yeah.
And the commandment is holy and righteous and good. So if it's holy, how can it be done away with? The commandment is holy. How can it be done away with? Now, also he says that the law is spiritual. Now, I'm not trying to spiritualize the law, but the law itself, the scriptures itself, is spiritual. And I think that this is where Judaism makes a problem, is because they deny Christ. They don't have the Ruach Kodesh, as the scriptures clearly state in a number of places, Antichrist spirit, spirit of delusion. They don't have a spiritual understanding, and they basically turn the law into, they see it with physical, Babylonian eyes, if you will. And there's a lot of commandments that they do, which are kind of, they have a fleshly understanding of what the spiritual, thing is teaching. But that's a whole other thing. But the law is spiritual, and we have here that the commandment is holy and righteous and good. So now what I'm going to share here in Matthew chapter 7. Oh, before we go, I want to look at that word one more time so that we have it fresh in our memory. This was in Romans chapter 2, verse 18. And we have that word here, G2307, thelema. That's that word that we have for desire, what pleases him, his pleasure, and will. Thelema, okay? 2307. So we're now going to go to Matthew chapter 7, and we're going to go down here. Verse 21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Check out this now. This word will, who does the will. See it right down here? Oh, wait, you can't see it. Let me go to the full version here. This word will here, you see that I have it highlighted?
Yes.
That's this word here, right
The
here.
will.
Yeah, the will. Let me just kind of highlight it so that we can put it there. There. That word will is this word will here.
Well, yeah.
I'll just highlight it. I don't think I can highlight down here. This is where the same word 𝐤𝐿𝐿𝐼. That's the same word that we just saw in Romans. And it says that because that you do the will of Elohim because you're taught it out of the scriptures. And he said that you get this desire, the pleasure, his will, and that's what he says, the will of my Father. Do we have a history here? Do we have a history in Romans 2:18? There we go. And then let's look at Matthew 7:21. We'll put it back to back so that you can see it here. There we go. So now we have them right here, this highlighted portion here at the very top of the screen. So right here he says, one who does the will of my Father. That's that word 2307.
Yeah.
𝐤𝐿𝐼, the pleasure, his desire, his will.
Yeah.
And then and they know his will. And who's his? His is Elohim. His Father's will.
Yes.
In that it says, because you are instructed from the law. So the one who does the will of my Father, we know his will is instructed from, let's just say, the Bible. Yeah, altogether. It's you could say just the book of Moses, but then you also know his will from the prophets, from the historical writings, and then also from the gospel accounts and other writings in the New Testament. Paul and the commentary and stuff like that. Revelation and things. But altogether, the Bible, that we get these instructions from the Bible. And that's what teaches us his will. So when you go to Matthew 7:21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom, but the one who does the will of my Father. Now, again, this is works. Now, we're not saved by works, but by our works. Let's go there and then we'll come back here. In the very end, this is red letter stuff here. Revelation chapter 22. Notice it's in red lettering here. Behold, I am coming soon. This is Christ speaking here. Bringing my recompense with me to repay each one for what he has done. Now, if we do a parallel, a compare of this, a bunch of different translations. Well, is it not in? Did I not highlight it? Oh, I didn't highlight it. That's why. Let's go back into 12, and then here we go. Let's do a comparison. King James says that to give every man according as his work shall be. Or in ISR, it says to give each according to his work. New King James, Modern King James, to give each according as his work is, repay each one for what he has done, to give every man according as his work is done, pay back each one according to his deeds. And when I like to study the scriptures, people ask me what translation you like. I like all of them. Some of them, I think that, there might be little flaws here and there. I have a saying, all scriptures are gold, but just as gold comes in different carats, so too the different scriptures come in different carats. It's also a verse by verse basis. So because a scripture verse is like 24 or is like a pure version of gold here, doesn't mean that in the next verse it's also the same quality of gold. I believe that the 24 karat gold is the original writing by the inspired writer in the original language it was written in. And if you translate it into any other language, you tend to lose things through translation. Because Hebrew, Hebrew, each letter can tell sentences, and each word can tell paragraphs, and each sentence can give you chapters of information. So it's literally that in depth. So if you translate anything out of Hebrew when it's originally in Hebrew, you lose a lot of information.
Yeah.
And there's no way of getting it back. So that's 24 karat gold. But again, we have what we need in our language to guide us in the right track. So, not to get lost, too deep on that, but it is fun to kind of go down some of those learning trails, but not to get, make mountains out of molehills. But still, what we have here is that each one is he's keeping you according to your work. He's judging you according to your work. So we're not saved by works, but by our works we are made known. We can tell in the same chapter. He even says here.
Yeah.
He says that you're going to recognize them by their fruits. Fruits are works. He says every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Yep. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown in the fire. Yeah. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits, by their works.
By the works,
yeah. And then he says that everyone who does the will of my Father is in heaven. The will, the desire. This is works. We're not on a works-based salvation, but by our works we are made known. And now in the next verse here it says, on that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, Adonai, Adonai, or Master, Master, whatever language whatever translation, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? Then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of
lawlessness.
So if the law is done away with, and this is about Christ's second coming, if the law is done away with, then if he's saying, I never knew you, you workers of lawlessness, why? Because only the one doing the will of his Father who is in heaven. And we saw in James 1:26 and 27 that religion is helping out, right, those in their affliction, widows and orphans, and I would include, anyone in their affliction, but also keeping yourself unstained from the world, which is taught by the law. So if we are taught that the law is done away with, but and then we're doing things that are against the law, but we're not trained on them, then, and like, maybe 500 years ago, you might have, maybe 500 years ago, you might have a better excuse. I couldn't read. I couldn't write.
Yeah.
I didn't have access to this book. I only was able to get what I could get from the people up on the pulpit, or 700 years ago.
Yeah.
I get that. But today we're not in that age. Today, everyone has access to free information worldwide at the touch of our fingertips. Case in point, right here.
Indeed.
Like, check this out. Here's another one. Like this website here, BibleHub.com. It's a great website. Look, it's an interlinear in Greek or in Hebrew, whether I'm in New Testament or Old Testament, that is there. I can click on each individual word. I have information. I can do word studies in a language that I'm not fully fluent in, but this is like a crutch that can help me to understand what this word means, or to be able to understand what this sentence means. Like here's the word for law, nomos in Greek, and it gives you every location in the entire scriptures here on the right hand side here. Every location in the scriptures where it's at. It appears 196 times in the Greek New Testament. Anyway, that's information. So what I'm saying is that today we don't really have the excuse so much to say, well, we didn't know what was right and what was wrong. Yeah. Well, or
we were like oppressed by the Roman Church, or we weren't allowed to have Bibles at the time. Yeah.
So the institution of religion today, what I find that it does this is, other problems that I have is that they make their parishioners, their members, they outsource their thinking. And they're like, you tell me. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to put it in neutral. I'm going to let you drive the train into the station. And I'm just going to sit here in the passenger car and just, sip on my tea and watch and sightsee. Or just enjoy the world until, like, are we there yet? Are we in heaven yet? Are we there yet? Did Christ's second coming come back yet? Are we there yet? Like, outsourcing their thinking. And it's a problem that I have is that a lot of people in pastor positions, I don't find that they're teaching their congregation, or B, I find that the things that they are teaching their congregation, it would be kind of like, let's say that you don't, but let's say that you have like a long couple nose hairs in your nose, right?
What?
But
wait a minute.
You don't, but then let's say that, you're, I'm trying to think of something, I don't know. You have, then let's say that, I'm trying to think, you got like some mustard stain on I don't know, or your shirt is torn.
Yeah.
Right. Your shirt is torn and you got like, your clothes need to be repaired. So you clearly need new clothes. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
So it would be like me like talking about a lesser matter when there's great. I think a better terminology, and I didn't want to put it on you, so I'll put it on someone else. If someone had like long fingernails, but there's some kind of blockage in their throat and they can't breathe.
Oh.
Like, are you going to be like, hey man, like let me clip your fingernails real quick, and they're like, like can't breathe, right? Yeah. I find that with church today, I'm like, hey, the thing that you're teaching is like, it's okay to clip your fingernails and, it's good to groom yourself. Yeah. But like this person can't breathe, man.
Yeah.
Like
he's dying.
Yeah, they're dying over here. Like, why don't you like fix like it's triage? You got to fix like key fundamental issues. Yeah. Like quit like worrying about these small matters, which they matter. My problem with a lot of church issues is that they're not teaching like big problems, and once you get those problems taken care of, tell me about, the proper way to clip your fingernails or what tool you like to use to do it, metaphorically, that's okay. So, that's kind of what I find, with Christianity that they're doing is they're not teaching his will properly because they're not teaching about the law. So I'm going to get finally into this last portion here. In Matthew chapter 5, I think I like to start with this. It's a great chapter to start with. Great portion. He says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them." So if we just focus just on this verse right here, if we just focus just on that verse, the law has been fulfilled. See, the law, he come to fulfill them. So he didn't come to abolish the law, but he came to fulfill it. So the law has been fulfilled. And so they somehow turn it into the law has been done away with. But they aren't taught on this word in particular. So again, this first episode, we're kind of getting into, why we're doing this study. Yeah. And we're getting into some core issues that I have with churchianity. And I showed you that, what is religion, aside from helping and doing good to others in their affliction, is to keep yourself unstained from the world. And we saw that it is the law, which is a spiritual law. It's perfect, and the commandments are good, and the law is good. And that, get away from me, you workers of lawlessness, and only those who are doing the will that desire, that 𝐤𝐿𝐴 in Greek of my Father, and that it is taught from the law. Yeah. And now here we have this law, and he come not to abolish, but to fulfill. And so this word fulfill, I would say that this is a core problem with churchianity, is that when we go into this word for fulfill, we look at it here, plerou, in Greek, 4137.
Right.
And it can mean the word complete or accomplish, It can also mean perfect or fully preach. For instance, fully preach, and we'll come back to this one here. In Romans chapter 15, verse 19, here it says that he has fulfilled the ministry of the gospel of Christ. He went around Jerusalem and all around Illyricum, and he fulfilled. So, look at that. The ministry of Christ, the gospel, has it been fulfilled? Is it over? 2,000 years ago? Is it done? No. It's silly, right?
Yeah.
It's silly, yeah? But you look at it that way, and I agree, it's comical.
Yeah.
Here in King James, it says fully preached for 4137. Here in ISR, it says completed the preaching. Modern King James says fully preached. We already saw ESV. KJVA fully preached. The Tree of Life version, fully proclaimed. Fully preached. Young's literal. Brenton Woods is accomplished the good news. That is there. So that word is that word plaru, 4137 in Romans 15:19. I like the word fully preached is a great one, or perfected.
Yeah.
He brought to its fullness that is there. So when we go back to Matthew 5:17, he didn't come to do away with the law and the prophets, but to fully preach them, or bring them to a fullness or a perfection of understanding. So he didn't come to do away with the law or the prophets. He came to bring a fullness to them, a plaru to them, a fully preaching them. And then in the context, just like real estate, location. It's the location of the scriptures in the verse that it's in, the context of it. The next two verses say, "Until heaven and earth pass away." Is earth still here? Oh, I'm on it. Are you on earth? I'm on earth.
I'm on Earth.
Until heaven's still there, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota or a dot, like crossing your T or dotting your I is kind of like what we say in English. Not even a missing of the crossing of a T or the dotting of an I will pass from the law till all is accomplished. Another point is, he says, I didn't come to abolish the law or the prophets. He says, but to fulfill them. Well, prophecy has not been fulfilled yet. Second coming hasn't happened. A lot of the stuff in Revelation hasn't happened. All this stuff has not happened yet. So if the law has been fulfilled with, then they're saying you can't pick and choose. Then they would be saying that the prophecy has been fulfilled, but it's not. It's been fully preached. Come to fully preach things, bring it to its fullness. And also, heaven and earth is still here. So all has not yet been accomplished. Right. Then he says, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So if we put it in context, well, the law has been fulfilled, but hey, remember the law that's been done away with, that's been fulfilled? Hey, if you relax these commandments which have been done away with, you're going to be called least in the kingdom of heaven. That's obviously not what he's saying. So context shows that the law has not been done away with. It's been brought into a fullness of understanding. And not even the crossing of a T or the dotting of an I, an iota or a dot, or a jot and a tittle, as some other translations will say. King James says a jot or a tittle. It has to do with the writing of Aramaic or Greek or Hebrew, of Hebrew, or Aramaic. It's the jot or a tittle. It's little pieces on the letter that are there. He says, whoever therefore relaxes one of the least of these commandments shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? It means the breaking of a greater commandment. If the least are the least, breaking the least commandments are the least in the kingdom of heaven, then simple logic states that the breaking of the greater commandments does not get you access into the kingdom of heaven. Things can be forgiven, but we are given time to get right. And if we pass a certain point and then judgment comes upon us, it's the Father's will to or to, not to forgive. If we fall from grace, so to speak, then that's his choice to make. But breaking of a greater commandment is talking about, not getting access into heaven. The least of these commandments, not that works gain us access into heaven, but by our fruits you shall know them. So I'm going to leave it with that because we're right at about our time. If there's anything that you want to say or any point that you see.
Yeah. I also wanted to add in to the point where the whole works and faith come in. When you mentioned that faith, we're not saved by faith, but
no, we're not saved by works.
Or sorry, we're not saved by works, but we're saved by faith. But through those works, you are shown his lawfulness, or you're showing that you're actually a follower of Christ. I also like to add to that, there's also a scripture that I don't quite remember, but I do know goes by faith without works is dead. And I think that it's quite made quite obvious that we're not only supposed to be hearers, but we're also supposed to be doers. Faith itself does not have works. Yeah, is dead. It's James 2:17. There we go. So I also like to add on to that because we're supposed to be doing. We can't just be out here sitting and like you said, clipping our nails. We're supposed to really get an ambulance to really take out the piece that's killing us inside. So I like to add on to that. Yeah, but this has been pretty informative overall, and I've definitely been learning.
Yeah. So basically, just kind of reiterate what we covered. I shared that we're going to be going through just a journey on training you on a broad level of topics in the scriptures, and we got to start somewhere. So we're going to be hitting a lot of topics, but I'm going to try to do a lot of triage stuff to begin with. Yeah. So the first thing that I shared was about religion. What is religion? And then I shared that we're supposed to be unstained. Aside from helping others in their affliction, that we're supposed to be unstained. And he calls that the law perfect. Yeah. And also that we're given the desire of our Father that's instructed from the law. And then Messiah himself says that not all those who say, Lord, Lord, but only those doing the will, that desire, 𝐤𝐿𝐴 of his Father, gain access into heaven. And that he said that I never knew you, you workers of lawlessness. And even though they're doing things in his name, casting out demons, doing works, things like that, they're doing good deeds, but ultimately they're doing also works of lawlessness. They don't have his desire of what he wants. And then I shared here I shared initially also that we're not supposed to be broken up into all these different religions, where the body has not been divided. Even though Satan has worked very hard to divide the body, we're not supposed to be divided. We're supposed to be following the scriptures, and we're not just supposed to be following, I don't just read Apostle Paul's writing and that's it. Or I don't just read Peter's writing and that's it, or just read Moses' writing and that's it. I read the compilation of works in the scriptures entirely. And this is what we're supposed to be following. And this is, essentially what religion is taught from, the fullness of the inspired writings. And then finally, with Matthew chapter 5, that the law has not been done away with, it's been fully preached. He came to fully preach it. And we're sent to go out there to bring this light to the nations, and to be a pillar of support to the nations, and to teach, as Romans 2 says, teach, essentially spiritual children, and teach, people that, he says foolish ones and children, and be a light to the nations and pillars. We're supposed to be this support going out there. We're supposed to be teaching this. And so in Matthew 5:19, it says that, whoever relaxes one of the least of the commandments is considered least. We're going to be getting into what greater commandments are. But first, I wanted to share that you need to have the mindset that the law is not done away with, but it is not the law that saves us, but it is the law that you could say exposes us.
Really gets us out there. Yeah.
Good or evil. The law exposes us for our actions, and we are judged by our works, and the law is what teaches us what stained and unstained is. So
Very nice.
so what would you say if I have finally, as I close things off here, I usually do things of don't cast pearls before swine. What would you say is the pearl of the episode, that like a key nugget of the points that we made, something that really stands out to you that you find profound?
The law is not done away with. It's still here. It's still here, and it's still something that we have to follow. And I think it's important to know that a lot of areas that we really need. A lot of us don't really know the fundamentals, and I think it's great. It's a good opportunity to be here to really just learn everything that I have been falling apart with. Haven't really been catching up, especially despite me, claiming to be a Christian my whole life. I think it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to.
All right, that's great. Yeah, the law is not done away with.
Yeah.
So we're going to be getting into more aspects of the law. We'll be getting into the spirit. We're going to be getting into a lot of cool topics. I love biblical teleportation, but that's going to be later on. I like some really fun topics and some really, some
cool topics.
Yeah, but we're going to be getting into triage foundational topics in the series episodes to come. So remember to guard your heart, guard your soul, guard Torah, or pay the toll.